அது வேலை செய்யறப்ப no problem.
Namo Namaha. We'll start with a prayer first. Ya kundendu tusharahara dhavala, ya shubhra vastravrita, ya veena varadanda manditakara, ya shweta padmasana, ya brahmachuta shankara prabhritibhir devai sada vandita, sa maam patu saraswati bhagavati nisheshada jadyapaha. A very warm welcome to one and all. It has been a trying 2.5 years for everyone due to the pandemic, and everyone was more or less confined to home. Janana melanam asmakam jivane santosham katham anayati iti sarvesham mukhameva pramanam. Everybody's content face is proof enough that everybody was looking forward to a gathering of this kind. But rules, niyamaha palaniyaha, and let me enlist the rules. Unless in front of a mic, everybody has to be masked within the room. No slippers or footwear of any kind inside the room. And the QR code is a must. Everybody should have scanned the QR code at the entrance. I'm sure all of you have done it. If anybody has not done that, please kindly go to the door, do that. It's pasted on the door. Kindly scan the QR code and then come inside and be seated. We thank Ramakrishna Mission and Samskrita Bharati Singapore for jointly providing this golden opportunity for this gathering. Samskrita Bhashaya Sangeettham Yetena Bhagavat Smaranam Itopi Mangalam Anyat Kimapi na Bhavitum Arhati. SBS is blessed with so many active Karyakartas who enthusiastically participate and make every program a learning opportunity for others in the community. And Ramakrishna Mission Singapore for ever being gracious in providing help in whichever way possible. I now humbly invite Swamiji to say a few words and bless us all.
On behalf of Ramakrishna Mission, I welcome all of you for this very special event. Narration describing the glories, singing, and also viewing. As just now we heard that this is possibly the best way to remember God. Today in our regular Bhagavad Gita class, this was the concept, this was the topic we were discussing. All that we do work for God, we remember God, we worship God, we serve others as God and for God. Everything we do is for what? Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram. So that this transient objects of the world, happy or unhappy, they torment us, they take away our mind from the focus. How can we remember God at the time of death if we are continuously behind objects of attraction and objects of hatred? To be free from that, throughout the life, the effort to remember God, whichever form you want to, so that at the end of the day, end of the life, the whole effort which we have put unknowingly, starting from staying in the womb of mother for 9 months, birth, survival, struggling, and eventually that which is transient becomes the goal of life. That's called ignorance. By grace of God, we are here today for one more reminder that eventually truth is to be achieved, not the transient thing around us. Thank you very much for coming. I was thinking it's heavy rain, whether people will be able to come or not, but thanks for taking trouble. There is a beautiful Sanskrit shloka. I will just say and I will complete. Taddinam durdinam manye meghachannam na durdinam. That day is a bad day. Which day? Not the day which is cloudy or the raining. Yad dinam hari sallapa kathapiyusavarjitam. The day when we cannot remember God, that's a bad day. Not the day which is rainy. Thank you.
Thank you. That was such a beautiful shloka that Swamiji just recited. Now we'll invite our special guest, Shri Kalyanapuram S. Arvind. He is one of the most sought after Carnatic vocalists of his generation of musicians. He belongs to a family of rich cultural Vedic heritage that includes senior Harikatha exponents Kalaimamani Kalyanapuram Shri R. Arava Mudacharyar and Kalyanapuram Shri R. Veeraraghavacharya, who are his paternal uncles. He is chiseled after his initial music training by none other than the living legend Padma Bhushan Sangeeta Kalanidhi Madurai Sri T.N. Seshagopalan for the past 15 plus years. Nothing more needs to be added after this introduction. Needless to say, He's been bestowed with many awards and recognitions. So without much ado, I call upon Shri Kalyanapuram S. Aravind. And I invite Sudhir Mahodaya to honor our guest, special guest. Let us all enjoy the program. Thank you.
జ్ఞానానందమయం దేవం నిర్మలస్ఫటికాకృతిం ఆధారం సర్వవిద్యానాం హయగ్రీవం ఉపాస్మహే. Namaskaram. So, how many of you are conversant with both Tamil and English? Okay. So, I want to, for the sake of freedom of expressing it better, I want to club both the languages, Tamil and English. So, last week when I landed in Singapore, Samskrita Bharati, Singapore chapter through Sri Swaminathan approached me for a program named Samskrita Sangeettham. Initially, we had planned that it might be a concert where we'll be presenting Sanskrit compositions. But later we thought it's imperative for a musician as well as an organization which promotes Sanskrit to establish that music and Sanskrit were never two different entities. They have always been together right from day one. So then we thought, why not we do this whole program as a lecture demonstration kind of a thing. So that is when the whole feeling of being overwhelmed started. Because both Sanskrit and music, both are two huge oceans. And it is close to impossible for an individual to dip inside the ocean and take few pearls in one lifetime in both the subjects. So I was going through a lot of material which I wanted to present today. And I have come up with a concise presentation where I have tried to cover the link as much as possible. So when I started dwelling on each of the topics that I am presenting here, I was feeling totally helpless as to decide which of the portions I should include and which of the portions I should leave behind. It's so beautiful to see the relationship between Sanskrit and music. And more and more I dwelled on these points, I realized that the Sahitya Bhava and Bhasha Jnana is so important for a musician to be successful in conveying what he actually is singing. There are many purviews saying that the Sahitya is not very important, and you can sing in praise of a let us say you can sing in praise of a donkey as well as sing in praise of Lord Rama. It's both one and the same. This kind of a view is emerging, but as I went through and did a lot of work on how the language and music are interlinked, I can vouch for it and say that a musician definitely should pay heed to the Sahitya And the Bhasha Jnana is a very important facet for a musician to excel in conveying the musicality to the audience. With this, I would like to begin this presentation, Samskrita Sangeettham, and present it in front of you all with the blessings of the Lord. So, what are we going to see today? So, music and Sanskrit don't have any difference in between them. This is what I said. This can be found very easily right from the names which we use to represent musical terminologies. For example, raga names or swara names, or even the word swara itself is a Sanskrit word, or gamakas, laya, tala, nadais, gatis. All these things are so tightly interlinked with Sanskrit terminologies. We'll see them in detail. And many of the treatises which actually define the lakshana for music, they are all written in Sanskrit, be it the Sangeeta Ratnakara or the Bharata Muni's Natya Shastra or Brihad Desi. All these things are texts from the medieval period, and all these are predominantly written in Sanskrit. And the classifications that we use for raga system, we call it the Melakarta scheme. So a raga is called a Melakarta raga when it has got all the 7 notes in it. So you can consider this Melakarta raga, which has got all 7 notes in it, to be a parent raga. So all the ragas that we delineate today are offshoots from the parent ragas. So we classify these parent ragas into 72 Melakarta ragas based on the Katapayadi Sankhya scheme, which is a very old scheme of numbering Sanskrit letters. And then, of course, there are tons of compositions in Sanskrit where we have the hero Sri Muthuswami Dikshitar. Muthuswami Dikshitar's Panditya in Sanskrit was amazing, and we will see so many interesting things today. And I while preparing these slides, I was like jumping with excitement as I went through each of the works that Dikshitar has done, right from Prasam, Yati Prastharam, how he correlates Purana stories into the compositions, how he brings the mudra of the raga, the name of the raga, he brings it so beautifully by joining multiple words together. And again, Tyagaraja Swami, we all know who was a great Rama Bhakta and a Jnani. Tyagaraja Swami has composed in Sanskrit. We all think that predominantly Tyagaraja Swami has composed in Telugu, but he has composed more than 40 compositions in Sanskrit. Then we have Nama Sankirtana Paddhati. So when the Bhakti movement in our country was attaining its peak, we had 300, 400 years ago, we had a lot of great saints such as Bhagavan Nama Bodhendra, Sridhara Ayyawal. All these people, they popularized the Nama Sankirtana Paddhati. Nama Sankirtana Paddhati is recital of the Lord's name using musical forms. So the Sanskrit language became such an integral part of describing different attributes of the divinity through Namavalis. That's a very important contribution of Sanskrit language to the Nama Sankirtana Paddhati. Then we have Jayadeva's Ashtapadis. Ashtapadi is one of the most ancient kavya after the Tirupavai by Andal, which represents the Nayaka Nayaki Bhava. And it has been called by Jayadeva himself as the Shringara Mahakavya. So here, when we interpret the Jayadeva's Ashtapadis, we should probably look at it with a perspective of the Jiva Brahma Aikya Tattva. Rather than looking at it in a more stula fashion, you have to take it in a more subtle way and probably look at how he has interpreted the interactions and the different feelings between Lord Krishna and Radha. Then we have Narayana Tirtha's Krishna Leela Tarangini or Tarangams. So, Narayana Tirtha was a saint who was born after Jayadeva. It is generally believed that Jayadeva himself reincarnated as Narayana Tirtha and Ootukadu Venkatakavi much later to sing the praise of Lord Krishna and his Leela that he performed in Vrindavan and later. And also we have influence of Sanskrit on other language compositions such as Kannada and Telugu also. The composition may be predominantly in Kannada or Telugu, but they borrow a lot of Sanskrit words and interpret that as a native Kannada word or a Telugu word. So the etymology of the language itself dates back to Sanskrit ultimately. And then we have post-Trinity composers like Harikeshanur Mutya Bhagavatar, Mysore Vasudevacharya, or Papanasam Shivan. All these people have immensely contributed towards Sanskrit compositions. So, getting into the core subject. So, we say Nadam. Generally, நம்ம வந்து ஏதோ ஒரு சவுண்ட் கேட்கறச்சே அது if it is pleasing என்ன ஒரு நாதமா இருக்குப்பா we immediately say. So this pleasing sound is called nadam. So in Carnatic music or in general in music terminologies we use nadam to denote the quality of the voice or quality of the tone of the instrument. And if it is going to be so pristine and it is going to actually take you to the state of ecstasy and stop your thoughts for a moment by simply the virtue of the tonality, we call it sunadam. Sunadam means pristine tone, or in Sanskrit it is, if you add the word su, it means that you are giving it extra value or you are giving it in a positive sense. So nadam and sunadam are very commonly used terminologies in music. So the next fundamental unit of music is swara or a note. So notes are the ones which eventually they branch out and form permutation combinations with other notes to form ragas and to form melodic structures. So what is this note? How will you define it in Sanskrit? So swaryate iti swaraha. So you can say that it shines or it makes sound or it breathes. Swaryate iti swaraha. Swayam rajate iti swaraha. Something which appears on its own, swaprakasha, or shines on its own. It doesn't require any other aid to shine. For example, the sun does not require any other medium to produce light, right? So it shines on its own. So swaram also can be described as swayam rajate iti swaraha. Then swa ranjayati iti swaraha. That which colors itself in terms of appealing sound. So the swara can decorate itself on its own and appear in a very appealing form to the ears of the listener. So if you see all these three definitions, they are independent definitions. They don't have any link with each other. But when you see and connect it with the Carnatic music or musical connotation, every note is a reflection of steady flow of breath through breath support. So before I utter any swara, I have to take a deep breath, and that is when I get the steady tonal quality in my voice. So the first definition, swaryate iti swaraha. So swara definitely breathes through the singer. And swara is the fundamental unit of sound. It's like an atom. So an atom cannot be, everything is made up of atoms, right? So in music, everything is made up of swaras. So we cannot dissect the swara into a smaller part. So we can say that swayam rajate iti swaraha. A thing which appears on its own is a swara. A swara also decorates itself in terms of appealing melodies differently in different ragas. For example, let us take the swara Re. I'll explain what Re means. All those things I'll come to it later. But I'm just trying to explain as to how this swara decorates itself differently and makes it sound completely different. The same swara Re, Re sa na na ra na. This is a way of expressing the Re. If I'm going to express the Re as Re na Re ga ma pa. Re is one way of expressing the Re. Re, with some movements, I am expressing the same Re. So when I do that, I'm able to have two different feelings, right? Just from a listening perspective, I'm asking. You are able to see the difference between the two Re's that I'm singing. Is one Re. Is another Re. So these two Re's, they decorate themselves differently in two different ragas called Dvijavanti and Sahana. So the definition Swa Ranjayati iti Swaraha also applies to the terminology Swara in our musical connotation. So Swara is such a phenomenal word that has been derived from Samskritam, and we are using it very casually while dealing with day-to-day musical interactions. So Swara is a very, very beautiful term that has been derived from the Sanskrit language. Again, the next fundamental word is Shruti. So the word Shruti is derived from the root verb Shru. So we say when the music is very pleasing, we say, Rumba Shravyama irukku kekkaradhukku. We use this word, right? Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnoho. These are the ways to worship the divinity, Lord Vishnu. Navavidha Bhaktis. So Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnoho, Pada Sevanam. All these things are there. So Shravanam is a very important aspect, listening or to hear, basically. So that is also obtained from the word Shru, root verb Shru. Even in Vedanta, we have three stages. Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Vedanta Shravanam is the starting process for a sadhak to process in his path of acquiring jnana. So Shravana is the process of listening and assimilating the words of the Shruti or scriptures. So we have Shruti, Smriti, Purana, Nam, Alayam, Karunalayam. So why they are called Shrutis? They are called Shruti because they have been transferred from generations to generations through the process of hearing. There was no written text in those days for the Vedas. Generally, the Vedas, the Upanishad, these are all called as the Shruti. So using the same connotation, the Sangeeta Ratnakara or other musical treatises have used the word Shruti for the smallest interval of pitch or change of sound that a human ear can sense or an instrument can produce, the smallest interval. So if we have a frequency range, right? நமக்கெல்லாம் காது இவ்வளோ ஹர்ட்ஸ்லேருந்து இவ்வளோ ஹர்ட்ஸ் we can listen here அப்படின்னு இருக்கு. அந்த given frequency rangeல எவ்வளோ changes பண்ணா, what is the minimum change you can do to make the human ear sense difference between two notes? அதுதான் அந்த difference தான் ஸ்ருதின்னு சொல்றா. So in Natya Shastra, we have got the concept of 22 Shrutis. 22 Shrutis are there. So what are the 22 Shrutis basically? 22 Shrutis are, I'll just name them now. So I'll explain what these names mean in the coming future slides. Shadjam, Rishabam, Gandharam, Madhyamam, Panchamam. These are all the names of the swaras in music. Shadjam, Rishabam, Gandharam, Madhyamam, Panchamam, Daivatam, Nishadam. We say, right? 7 swaras we say. Sapta swarangal. Sapta swarangal enna? Shadjam, Rishabam, Gandharam, Madhyamam, Panchamam, Daivatam, Nishadam. இது எல்லாமே சான்ஸ்கிரிட்லேருந்து வந்த பேர் தான், if you notice. So in the Shadjam and Panchamam are notes that do not have any gradations or variations. Whereas the swaras like Rishabha, Gandhara, Madhyama, Daivata, Nishada, இதெல்லாம் சின்ன சின்ன வேரியேஷன்ஸ் இருக்கு. இந்த எல்லா வேரியேஷன்ஸையும் வெரைட்டிஸையும் சேர்த்து போட்டு if you club it together, it is called 22 Shrutis. You get 22 different gradations, 22 Shrutis. Next is Layam. Music kattukrava, people who are learning music or have interacted with musicians, they would have heard about this. Shruti Mata, Layaf Pita. So Shruti and Laya are the parents of a perfectly rendered composition or a musical melody. So why do you say so? Because Shruti forms the fundamental frequency depending on which you are going to sing. And the Laya or the rhythmic aspect forms the platform for how that words between the composition is divided. You cannot divide anything as per your whims and fancies, right? You have to have an orderly fashion so that it becomes listenable. If I talk like that, you won't understand. I have to have a rhythmic spacing between each of the words so that I'm able to clearly enunciate the words and you are able to understand that. Similarly, while rendering a musical composition, you need some rhythmic spacing. That's called Laya. So generally, we use the word Laya in a different context where one merges or dissolves into. When people do japam or all those things, they say, Jabatala Laya Mardu. So when you keep chanting the name of the divinity, at one point of time you will forget the act of chanting, the object of chanting, and the person who is chanting. Everything will become one and you will just, it just happens. The chanting just happens. Ajapa ajapam, that's what they say. That process is generally called as Laya or merging or dissolving into. So this is obtained from the root word li. And this particular context to the word Laya has been used in treatises like the Natya Shastra to denote the process of adhering to the rhythmic intervals between the two sounds. If I'm going to clap like this, there is a gap, right, between each of the clap. So I have to adhere to the interval that is there between each clap. I cannot clap. I can't do that, right? I have to adhere to that interval of time. Similarly, when you're walking, you cannot keep one step slower and one step faster when you walk. You're going to trip and fall down if you do that. So that Laya is very important, right from heartbeat to right from the way you talk, right from the way you walk. Everything is dependent on Laya. So the interesting thing is when you are so intense and adhere to the musical Laya so beautifully, we actually dissolve into ourselves. And in Tamil also there is a word laichu porudhu. This Laya is the foundation for. See, Tamil actually might be different in many aspects, but the colloquial Tamil which we speak today has got a lot of influence from Sanskrit. Laichu porudhu means becoming one with or getting engrossed in. So that is derived from the word Laya. Next is Gamaka. Gamaka is gum gach, to go. That is a root verb for Gamaka. Gamaka means movement. So this is used in musical treatises to represent movement within notes. See, if I'm going to say sa ri ga ma pa da ni sa sa ni da pa ma ga ri sa, if I'm going to sing like this, it's not going to be listenable. So you need to do some movements to make music emerge out of the swaras. Swaras themselves cannot become musical. Music happens when the swaras move within each other. Sa ri ga ma. pada ni sa sa ni da pa ma ga ri sa. This makes it musical, right? Instead of sa re ga ma pa da, that's not music. That's just notes. However precise you are going to adhere to the drone with precision and shruti, even then it's not going to be musical. So the gamaka is very important. And in gamaka, Carnatic music, we have dasha vida gamakas, or 10 types of gamakas. And there are other versions where we have panchadasha gamakas, and there are other theories also. Let's not get into it because we are uh, concerned about the etymology of the word gamaka and how it is used by composers. In the composition Meenakshi Memudam Dehi, Muthuswami Dikshitar uses the word Veena Gana Dasha Gamaka Kriye to denote Lord as Meenakshi of Madurai. Veena Gana Dasha Gamaka Kriye. So, generally, the instrument veena is characterized by its gamakas, right? When you have to move from swara to swara, you just pull the string. Ah, na, na. It's not na. It's always not a straight attack. It's always a movement. Ah, na, 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 na. That's how you do the veena. Turn, turn, turn. It's not turn. That sound doesn't come. It's always movement, right? So veena is so beautifully always connected with gamaka oriented music. So Muthuswami Dikshitar here uses Veena Gana Dasha Gamaka Kriya. So generally an instrument is always played in the Gayaki style, or that's what we say. However, a person sings and the instrument also should sound exactly the same way, Gayaki style. Whereas in terms of Veena, it gives the reference for how to sing because of the Gamaka style it holds. Another important aspect of this line, Veena Gana Dasha Gamaka Kriya, is Gamaka Kriya. The word Gamaka Kriya represents the raga in which the composition is also tuned to. But explicitly, it is not representing the raga in this particular sentence, right? Veena Gana Dasha Gamaka Kriya is a way of addressing the Ambal or Meenakshi. So why does Ambal create Gamakas in music? You might ask. So the context is not that. Context is generally the masculine aspect or the consciousness is considered to be the potential energy, or the creation is considered to be the kinetic energy, or manifestation is considered to be the kinetic energy. That is the Devi Swarupa which we look at when we see in the Vedantic point of view. So Ambal or Devi is actually the one who creates the creation or creates movement. She makes movements. So Gamaka Kriye represents Ambal in that context. So she is always viewed as the kinetic force behind the creation, or the reason for the movement is addressed as the one who is the creator, the doer of the 10 types of movement present in Veena Gana. So I have not listed all the 10. It will become too long to explain them. Spuritam, Kampitam, Andolanam, Humpita, Pratyahata, Anahata. These are all the types of Gamakas. So Spuritam is I am using this. I am landing on the lower note 2 times. The papa from the upper note. This type of usage in melodic structure is called spuritam. Kampitam. So kampanam means to shake. So kampitam is a movement within the notes. Sari. So I am shaking around the region of the swarari, right? So it's called kampita or sthana kampita, swasthana kampita. I am oscillating around the same sthana. Similarly, we have Andolanam where the Gamaka is like a swing. In Tamil also, we say, even Annamacharya in Telugu has composed, Dolayam chala dolayam chala dolayam. Dolayam means swing. It's generally sung in Sahasra Deepalankara Seva in the 7 hills of Tirumala, where the Lord is made to be giving darshan for the public from the swing. So Andolanam is the root word for this word dola. Pratyahata, Anahata are all different types of gamakas. So due to the want of time, I'm just skipping through this. Again, gati. Gati is another term which simply means gait. So generally we say when a person sings a composition, gaja gati la padrampa, we say. So the composition is, it means that the composition is rendered in a gait that just similar to the, it's a metaphorical representation though. It's similar to a gait of an elephant that is walking. So, Vatapi Ganapatim Bhaje Ham Vatapi Ganapatim Bhaje Ham Varana Syamvara Pradam Shri Vatapi Ganapatim Bhaje. You have to sing it with a gait as if imagining as if Lord Vigneshwara is walking, marching ahead in the form of an elephant. So Gajagati. But in terms of laya, gait actually represents the form in which the composition is seated in a rhythmic structure. So if I'm going to split the composition in syllables of 3, syllables of 3, it's called Tisragati. If I'm going to split it in terms of 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3. It's called Kandagati. If it is going to be in terms of 7, it's going to be Misragati. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, this is called Mishragati. The word Mishra here also is a Sanskrit derivation. Mishra means mix. So Mishra is 7, I said, right? It's a mixture of 3 and 4. You can assume it to be that. So Mishra Gati is again a Sanskrit derivation. Again, Talam. So I always, when I teach my students, I say this. If I'm going to use a terminology, first I will define it. Then only I will use it. So here I have used the word Talam, but I have not defined it still. So I thought I should define it first. So Talam na clapping of 2 hands generally can be or on the surface like this, or on my other hand. It's called talam. So there are innumerable number of talams, but basically we take into account 35 talams, which are a result of different permutations of different jatis and different nadais. Nadai is nothing but the Tamil translation for gati. So if we have, so what is this jati? Jati is, every tala has got different angas or parts. So they are represented by either counting a finger or turning my hands like this or doing this kind of a gesture. So these are all the different angas of a tala, or they are gestures which are used to maintain the tempo basically. So if you have, there are totally 5 gatis. One is Tisram, which is number 3, Chatushram number 4, Kandam 5, Mishram 7, Sankirnam 9. So, and there are totally 7 talas available. 7 talas is Ekatalam, Rupakatalam, Triputatalam, Jampatalam, Matyatalam, Druvatalam, Atatalam. 7 talas. 7 talas into 5 gatis totally, which gives 35 talas. That's what we mainly deal with. So we come to the naming of the swaras. So we frequently hear the words sa, ri, ga, ma, pa, da, ni, sa, right? When talking about music. So what is this sa, ri, ga, ma, pa, da, ni, sa? Sa is called Shadja, Ri is called Rishabha, Ga is called Gandhara, Ma is called Madhyama, Pa is called Panchama, Daivata, Nishada. So these swaras actually are related to different animals or birds in the creation. So Shadja is the ecstatic sound that is made by a peacock when it sees the clouds of rain assembling in the sky. Rishabha is the roaring of a cow or roaring of a bull. That's bull is precisely Rishabha, right, in Sanskrit. Gandhara is goat bleating when it is in a flock. Madhyama is heron's cry. Kokila or nightingale, that is always that makes the sound of Panchamaswara. Daivata is for a horse and Nishada is for an elephant. So Sri Jayadeva beautifully uses this reference in his own Ashtapadi where he says that when the Malaya Maruta breeze from the mountain comes to the Vrindavan village, the bees or the wasps, they eat away all the mangoes in the mango trees. So these kokila or the nightingales, they feel hungry without food, without the fruits being available for them. And they start shouting in the swara of Nishada or Kakali Nishada, which is usually meant for an elephant. So generally these swaras are in the ascending order of pitch. Sa, ri, ga, ma. So each swara is higher than the other. So pa is the swara for the kokila or the nightingale. Ni is the swara for the elephant. So the kokila, the nightingales are very hungry and they start screaming in the swara of Nishada. This is what Jayadeva says. Utkirna karnajwaraha. So there is a small musical science that he has expressed here. A person should actually sing in the prescribed volume of his own voice. He has to discover his own voice and sing in that particular volume alone instead of pushing and exerting himself while singing. So if he is going to do that exertion, it means that it's going to be Karnajwaraha. That's what Jayadeva very subtly points out in his Ashtapadi. And Shadja has got another meaning also. So the word Ja is generally associated with giving birth. So we have Girija, Bhumija, all these names, right? So Shadja, if you see, I have this Tanpura which is running now. So the sound which is being played is the Shadja. So all the other notes are basically dependent on this Shadja. Sa, and for this Sa, it is Ri, Ga, Ma, Pa, Da, Ni, Sa. If I am shifting this Sa to higher note, Sa, Ri, Ga, Ma, Pa, Da, Ni, Sa, Za, Ni, Da, Pa, Ma, Ga, Ri, Sa. So the other 6 notes change if I shift this Sa. So we can probably metaphorically say that the Shadja is the birthplace of the other 6 notes, right? So Shat is 6, Ja is representing birth. So Shadja is a place where the other 6 notes are born. That's the significance. So we have the treatises of music, Sangeeta Ratnakara by Sarangadeva. It's a 12th century treatise. Comprises of 7 adhyayas. We have the Swaragata Adhyayi, Raga Viveka Adhyaya, Prakirna Adhyaya. So this performance related guidelines are so beautifully structured that a performer or a stage performer should know how he should present himself. How should he have his appearance on stage? All these things are mentioned in Sangeeta Ratnakara. Prabandha Adhyaya, Tala Adhyaya, Vadhya Adhyaya, Nartana Adhyaya. The last one is pertaining to dance. So how a composer or a lyricist should write his lyrics, that is very detailed, in a detailed manner it is explained in the Prabandha Adhyaya. So now we have Katapayadi Sankhya, which is a very oldest system of numbering that is available. So as I told, a raga can be either a parent or a child raga. So this is the table. You can all have a look at the table. The number 1 to 0 is written, right? Are you all able to see it clearly? We have the numbers 1 to 0. Ka, kha, ga, gha, na, cha, cha, ja, ja, nya. So we have this consonants written in this order, right? Are you able to see? So now let us have a small session involving you all. So let us take a name of raga. Let us say Kiravani. Okay? Kiravani. So take the first two letters of and Ra. Kiravani, Ka and Ra is there, right? Ka here is number 1 and Ra here is number 2 in the bottom. So you get Ka and Ra, when you take the numbers, you get the number 12. If you reverse the number 12, you get 21. 21 is the Melakarta name of Kiravani, number of Kiravani. So as I said, 72 ragas are there, right? So if you give the name of raga, from this table, you can find the number of the raga. So anyone can volunteer to do this exercise? This side? So I'll take more example. Let us say Karahara Priya. So the Karahara Priya's Ka is second Ka. So that is 2. Ra is the second letter. That is also 2. 22. The Raga's Melakarta number is 22. So yeah. Yep. Yep. Kamavardhini is 1 and 5. So it's, when you switch it, it is 51st Melakarta. Maya Malava Gaula. If you say Maya Malava Gaula, Ma is number 5 here. Ya is number 1 here. So 51. If you swap it, it's 15. So another beauty is, since the ragas are split into sets of 36 and 36, 72 is divided into 36 and 36. If you see the difference between 15 and 51, it is 36. And the numbers are also swapped. There are 2 such pairs which are available: 36, 63, 15 and 51. Next is, why are the ragas named so? There should be some reason, right? Anybody cannot be named without a reason. Generally, our names are all names of God and based on Namavalis. So the ragas also have got an etymology. It seems that the demon Ravana went to Kailasha and played Veena for Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva was very impressed. So that raga was called as Harapriya. Later, after Rama's time, Rama was the one who actually slayed Ravana's cousin Kara and Doshana, right? So Karahara Priya, that's how it came to be. Karahara denotes Rama here. Saranga. Saranga denotes elephant. Saranga is a word for elephant. So the raga actually has a gait of an elephant. That's what it means. This is the raga Saranga. It's so beautifully structured. Brindavana Saranga. What is Brindavana Saranga? Brindavana Saranga is a raga which is derived from the Hindustani tradition, Brindavani Sarang. Here it is named Brindavana Saranga, and it denotes a forest where a lot of herds of elephant are walking. So this raga is so lively and so majestic as a herd of elephants are walking in a forest. Kamboji. It is said that this melodic structure of Kambodhi used to be sung in regions of Cambodia. So Cambodia was called as Kamboja Desha. So the raga which has come from Kamboja Desha is called Kamboji. And many more are there. We can actually do an extensive study of raga etymology itself. So we come to the main part of the session. Sanskrit in compositions. Compositions are so rich and the The source of Sanskrit which is available in the compositions are huge. So let us take Muthuswami Dikshitar's Utsava Sampradaya Kritis of Tyagaraja Swami, all these things which we saw earlier. So let us go into Muthuswami. So there is something called, when a person writes down a lyrical structure, there is something called prasam or rhyming. So generally the first letter of all the stanzas match together, or the middle letter matches, or in Tamil also they say edugai monai. It's a poetic term, prasam. Dikshitar Kritis have got so beautiful prasams which have been incorporated in his Sagityas. The Kriti Saundara Rajam Ashraye, if you take the Anupallavi, Nalde Naldana Rajam Naga Patana Rajam Sultan Rama Rajam Suravinutam Mahirajam Manda Smitamukambujam Naldaratarakarambujam Nalda Karanayana Sundara Tarapada Bujam Sundara. If you see the lyrics, it's so beautiful. Nanda Nandana Rajam, Nagapattana Rajam, Sundari Rama Rajam, Suravinutamahi Rajam, Mandasmita Mukam Bujam, Mandaratara Karam Bujam, Nandakara Bujam, Sundaratara Padam Bujam, Saundara Rajam. So the prasam is Antyakshara prasam here. The last syllable of each word remains the same. So Sundari Rama Rajam, the consort of Lord Saundara Raja Perumal of Nagapatnam, is Saundarya Valli Tayar. So that is what he refers to here as Sundari Rama Rajam. Nagapattana Rajam. He is the lord of the city of Nagapatna. So the words are totally different. They convey totally different meanings, but the prasam is completely maintained. In the Kriti Akshaya Linga Vibho in Shankarabharanam as well. Akshara Swarupa Amita Pradapa Aruda Vrishavaga Jagan Moha Daksha Sikshana Dakshadara Sura Lakshana Vidhi Vilakshana Lakshya Bhakshana Bahu Vichakshana Sudha Bhakshana Bhagu Kataksha Vikshana Akshaya Ling. If you see, the second letter is all Iksh. Daksha Sikshana, Daksha Darasura, Rakshana Vidhi Vilakshana Lakshya. So it is all Iksh. Dvitiya Akshara Prasam. This is called Dvitiya, means second Akshara. Dvitiya Akshara Prasam. The second letter is all maintained. Similarly, in Shri Subramanyaya Namaste, if you see Shri Subramanyaya Namaste. Then the Anupallavi. Bhu Suradi Sri Su Bhusu. Samaste Jana Pujitabja Charanaya. Next. Vasuki Isu Bhusu Vasu. Daksha Kadi Sarpa Swaru Upa Dharanaya. Next. Vasa. Shisu, Bhusu, Vasu, Vasa. Sakala Deva Vaditaya Parenyaya. Next. Dasa Jana. Shisu, Bhusu, Vasu, Vasa, Dasa. This is the kind of Dvitiyakshara Prasam Dikshitar, Swami Dikshitar maintains in his Sri Subramanya. Prasam is a very, very, very beautiful, beautiful poetic tool to convey your imagination and ideas in the compositions. Next is Yati Prastara. So Yati is a pattern that is either increasing or decreasing. So it will be either like a pyramid or an inverted triangle. So the Gopucha Yati, if you see, I have written down the words here. If you see the pattern of the words, you can see that there is a inverted triangle kind of a pattern. So this is called Gopucha Yati. This is called Gopucha Yati because it represents the tail of a cow, which is broader at the top and narrows down. Shri Varalakshmi Namastubhyam Vasuprade Shri Sarasapade Rasapade Sapade Pade Pade Shri Vara Lakshmi Namastubhyam. Next is Shroto Vahayati. So this Shroto Vahayati is the reverse of the Gopuchayati. So it starts from a narrow beginning and ends with a broad ending. So this Muthuswami Dikshitar has used both Gopuchayati and Shrotavahayati in the same Kriti of Tyagaraja